because 80% of the feedback we receive in growing up is negative. Here's the thing. When I say nothing's impossible, nothing's impossible. However, it depends what you choose. I teach people to stand in the future, stand in the place, imagine the result that you want to have produced and have produced. Stand in that place, absorb it, think it, be it. Now, when you're in a shit place, you're actually governed by the voice in your head. You're governed by the limiting beliefs that you're experiencing in that moment. And the biggest obstacle in anyone's life or any company is I've been clear of my purpose for many, many years. And that has guided me beautifully for the most part. So my purpose, for what it's worth, is post-COVID, many people have lost their sense of purpose and lost their sense of identity. There are an awful lot of lost and unhappy people at the moment who are desperately looking for direction. In Japanese philosophy, your purpose, your Ikigai, is not valid unless
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. Through sharing the stories of our guests, I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey. The amount of clients and companies and organisations you've worked with, I guess, over the many years, giving people that belief that nothing's impossible.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful tool. But to be able to deliver that based on, because we've just listened to a snapshot of the early years of your life, right? And how many people will go, you know, I've not been through, I'm at whatever age I'm sitting here at 44 going, I've not experienced any of those challenges or things that we've faced. And yet, that's why I find it so inspirational. That's what's got to be so inspirational to clients and people that you work with, that actually from your lived experiences, you're able to go, it can be done.
It can be done, exactly. It can be done. It's a matter of choice. And here's the thing. When I say nothing's impossible, nothing's impossible. However, it depends what you choose. You don't have to climb Everest. You don't have to go to the moon. It's a question of what do you want to achieve, and then make that possible. But there are all sorts of ways and means of doing that, and ways of thinking about it, and ways of approaching it, that are going to help you to do that, which we don't necessarily think about. Often when people think about the future, they stand in the present and they look forward. And it gets to a point, it gets a bit misty, frankly, beyond maybe 6 months, shall we say. Well, if you're trying to do a 5-year business plan, if it's misty after 6 months, it's not going to help you, is it? So I teach people to stand in the future, stand in the place, imagine the result that you want to have produced and have produced. Stand in that place, absorb it, think it, be it. Now, what was the last thing you did that got you that result? Put that milestone in. Then go back a bit more. What was the penultimate thing you did? And so on until you take yourself to the present. So if you stand in the future and look back, which, by the way, is what Kennedy did, I'll say about that in a minute, but if you do that rather than standing in the present looking forward, then so much more is possible, because it's such a much bigger opportunity and possibility that you're creating.
It's almost like visualize that, because I've spoke to I've had Sally Gunner on, like Olympic champion, and people like that, and so much of that they talk about visualization, and even some business owners who have come on and sold for multi-millions, that visualization is such an important part. How many personal development, self-help books and business books are so much allude to that thing, but it is sometimes, I guess I'm speaking for myself on occasion, I'm speaking for other business owners sometimes, that actually when you're in some shit places, and it's sometimes harder to see that vision.
It is harder to see the vision, but when you're in a shit place, you're actually governed by the voice in your head. You're governed by the limiting beliefs that you're experiencing in that moment, because you're actually creating the shit in your head. And I don't want to make this sound flippant, because it isn't. It's really important stuff. But we limit ourselves so much. And the biggest obstacle in anyone's life or any company is the voice in the head, is the limiting beliefs, it's the limiting mindsets. So limiting mindsets are an absolute devil, because of the way that we are and because of the survival mechanisms that we create. We want to be right about our limiting mindset. So to give you an example, a very, very frequent one for people is, I'm not good enough. Right. So if you believe that you're not good enough and you have to be right about it, you're not going to allow yourself ever to quite reach the mark. You're going to fall short of that in order to be right about it and keep in your comfort zone. Now, for anyone to say that they're not good enough is a lie. But it's the lie they inherited from the previous generation's feedback. Because 80% of the feedback we receive in growing up is negative. And it's also somebody else's perception. It's somebody else's view of the world or view of you or opinion of you. It's not yours. And so we find our way through. And, you know, that then takes us to limiting beliefs and decisions about the sort of person that we are. Now, a decision murders the alternative. People get married on the basis of a decision in the face of evidence that would seem to indicate that it's not a good idea. And that's why I'm so emphatic about choice, because choice gives you freedom. Now, you can choose to think whatever you want. But when we get into a shit place, and I had one last week, you know, my laptop was driving me insane. And I live and die by my laptop, you know. And my limiting beliefs started to act up. And then I have to talk to the parrot and say, hang on a minute. You know that there is an answer to this. You know that this can be resolved because you've done it before. So enough of that. Let's get on with sorting it out. But that's what happens to us. You know, we wind ourselves into a vortex of limiting beliefs sometimes. And you can be an optimist. You can be highly, highly successful. You can be the man on the moon. We all have them.
So much to take away from that for me. Like, the big one is the choice. It's that, because you're absolutely right. There's that. When you are in that shit place, that voice becomes a bit louder, doesn't it? That limiting belief voice comes a lot louder. Because when things are going well and you're thriving, you can't even hear the voice. But when actually you get into a dark place, that voice then becomes really loud and really prominent. But I guess it's taking that moment to have a word with yourself, as you mentioned, and go, I've got a choice here. I won't listen to that. This is, and is that where the visualization part becomes stronger, where you're in that point and you've got to make a choice and you go, what am I doing this for? Where am I going? This is what I want to get to, and I need to work back or not.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So, first of all, I think it's really important for people to understand that it is 100 times easier to manage the voice in your head if you animate it. What I mean by that is I have a parrot who sits on my left shoulder, and he is the critical parrot, or she, it doesn't really matter. So when that critical voice gets louder and starts to interfere, I talk to the parrot, and it's 10 times easier to manage that than when it's in your head and it has control of you. Yeah. So talking to yourself can actually be a really frustrating experience. But if you're talking, this is your visualization, if you're talking to the parrot, you could say to the parrot, thanks for sharing, but I'm not going down that road today. I'm choosing to think something else, or do something else, or believe something else. It's important to acknowledge that you have the voice, because you can never annihilate it. But over the years, as you manage it, it weakens and weakens, and it becomes less important, and sometimes even a joke. Oh, did I really think that? So the visualization of the parrot or whatever, I mean, I've done a lot of work with clergy, and they always have angels and devils. So visualizing your devil and interacting with the devil can really help, because you're removing it. You're giving it perspective and distance. And that makes a big difference. As far as any other visualization is concerned, you said something really important, because you said, is that the time when you think about, where am I going, what am I doing, what's my purpose? Now, I'm very keen on purpose. I've been clear of my purpose for many, many years, and that has guided me beautifully for the most part, because I've got an end goal. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm up to. And so I know what isn't going to fit in there and what is going to fit in there. So my purpose, for what it's worth, is to challenge assumptions in order to support and encourage people and organisations to find their own integrity. And when I talk about integrity, I talk about wholeness, so that every part of you is aligned with every other part of you. Equally, in an organisation, you need to have an alignment of wholes for the organisation to successfully move forward as one toward the vision, mission, purpose. But if we don't have purpose, if we don't have a sense of where we're going, then all sorts of things can occur, as I'm sure you're aware. And today, I'll just say this quickly, post-COVID, many, many, many people have lost their sense of purpose and lost their sense of identity. There are an awful lot of lost and unhappy people at the moment who are desperately looking for direction. The majority of requests I get are for that. The same applies to organisations, of course.
But how, I guess, finding your purpose, is it something that we have to, should it be something we have to search for? Like, how do you help people, I guess, navigate what, because it is our purpose, is it within us already, and it's just, how do we find that within us?
So it's about allowing yourself to dream and to connect with something that you have some enthusiasm for, if not passion for. Yesterday I spent 2.5 hours with a client helping her to identify her purpose. So I do that piece of work as a kind of workshop. And she had some notions of what she wanted to do, but she didn't have any clarity on that. So by taking her through a process, we were able to identify, as near as damn it, what it is that she does want to do. And she had been holding back. And she suddenly realised that it was something she wanted to do in childhood and had never fulfilled. And that connection is actually really interesting, because as children, we dream. As we grow up, we're not allowed to dream. It kind of gets drummed out of us at school. It's all about passing exams and being qualified and being good enough. So the dreaming kind of gets put to one side. And that piece is really important in terms of reconnecting with, or indeed connecting for the first time, with your purpose of what it is that you are really interested in, passionate about, want to achieve. That's one part of it. The other part of it is that human beings on the whole want to make a difference. You know, who wants to have "he didn't matter" on their tombstone? We all want to matter in some way or another. And so we should, because we need community, we need support, we need to share, we need the love, we need the kindness, we need the peace, for heaven's sake. In Japanese philosophy, your purpose, your Ikigai, is not valid unless what you do contributes in some way towards the community or your tribe or the culture or the government, but anyway, to the greater good in some form or another.